Thank you very much, Alice. And indeed, before I start, thank you very much to Russell, Mark, for once again organising an incredible event for us here today. Well done. Today, I come to speak to you in independent capacity. I'm not representing an operator. I'm not representing a supplier, a regulator, or any support service. I'm here to inspire you. To follow on from Simon's last presentation, I want to help us make sure that other regulations don't become the same issue that the UK has become. So what has happened in the UK? First, within my presentation, I want to cover this. I was thinking about what to present with my partner on the 6th of November, and I started taking screenshots of news articles from various papers. And I'm hoping I keep up with the British media, and I want to cover that with you to show you quite how serious the existential threat to our businesses is. After that, I want to cover a little bit on root cause analysis. What is really causing this issue? Then reflect on how other sectors manage their own existential problems. And finally, I want to draw towards analysing how we are dealing with that issue today, and controversially, how our approach is flawed. Finally, I will cover how we can be better. So as discussed, I started taking screenshots on the 6th of November. You can imagine my partner at bed at 6 in the morning, hearing photographs being taken on the iPad. What are you doing? Well, this is what I was doing. I was collecting a collage of different images. This is just one new UK newspaper, a highly reputable one. I'm sure you know it. 4 articles just to kick off in a 2-week period again. And before I knew it, a minister resigned. This was on the 15th of November. That is why I resigned. I simply could not defend any delay knowing that 2 people every working day were estimated to have taken their lives because of gambling problems. I've held the hands of too many addicts. I tried to find the source of the 2 a day. It frightened me, to be honest. Is this just in the UK? Is it worldwide? I couldn't find the source. It was an estimate. But if it's just the UK, it's a very, very scary statistic. I asked people, what is the political agenda at the moment in the UK? What are the top 5 items on the domestic agenda? Brexit, obviously. Here we're being ridiculed with Brexit. Government acts on problem gambling. Fixed odds Brexit. My deal or no deal. Everyone's a loser. Amusing. But I must say, what are those top 5 items on the domestic agenda? Brexit, knife crime, county lines, drug running, NHS. What are in 4 and 5? Is gambling up there? I think it is. Importantly, well, sadly, the news gets worse. This was the day after the minister resigned, not the day before. We can confirm a man who tragically died was our customer. Early on Monday morning, he became emotional and agitated in the casino. Our staff followed proper, well-practiced procedures. Took the man to a quiet room. Since he remained in an agitated state, we asked for police assistance and handed him to officers who took him from the casino. How difficult that must have been to have been those members of staff. Imagine how they feel retrospectively. Your staff have to deal with things like this, or close to it. They do. What a sad story. The man lost 25,000 that day, that last deposit. What was going through his mind? The red mist had descended. He'd lost control. He was no longer making rational decisions. He caused himself so much pain that his own emotional resources could not cope with that pain. The only solution was the irrational, to remove himself from life. Obviously, I'm just focusing on the UK. But there are other people considering their own licensing regimes now. America as well. Very important. Well, in America, when people lose control, there's a terrible aggravating factor. Guns. Now, I want to be crystal clear here. Stephen Paddock never left a suicide note. And the motive for his atrocity, where he murdered 59 people, has never been found. But what we do know about the man is that he was a massive gambler. Massive VIP gambler. $100 a spin or a hand video poker player. Used to sit at machines for 14 hours at a time. Very, very quickly, the industry leaders within Vegas stood up. No, this guy didn't fit the profile of a problem gambler. He always paid his bills. They fought back. Well, not sure about having the profile of a problem gambler, but this is what the media was saying afterwards. A great difficulty, an existential problem. I read the papers as well about the Californian fires, which are raging strong, and firemen remarking how fires are jumping from one side of a lake to the other side of a lake and crossing back again, backwards and forwards. Such is the strength of the blaze. Well, the strength of this blaze, the sparks are crossing the North Sea. They're crossing the Channel. What is the existential problem that we're dealing with? Harsher and harsher regulatory enforcement, a whirlwind, out of control. What is the root cause of that problem? Some will say financial interests. Yes, they are definitely involved. Yes, no question. But there's something good to lean on. Public incidents, cases of suicide, broken families, fraud to fund the habit. Influences public opinion. 70% of British people interviewed in the high street distrust gambling companies. It influences political agenda, harsher, tighter regulations, enforcement. In order to deal with the issue, the problem needs to be tackled at its source. Now, how do other sectors deal with this issue? Well, at the moment, something on the agenda is about screen time. People are worried about their children being online too much, even themselves. Has Apple or Android been mentioned? No, not yet. But it's on the agenda. But how have they responded? Okay. It's now embedded in their operating systems of Apple. It's embedded inside screen time applications. It even pushes to me, tells me on Sundays what I've been doing. There's a series of apps as well to help parents control their screen time. And then I'm going to look at social media as well. Do you remember the storm about 2-3 years ago about privacy? People couldn't see what other people could see about them. They didn't know. They couldn't control. They'd lost control. But how did the social media players respond to that? There'd be people worried about what people were seeing from their children, who was looking at them, etc. The social media companies responded. They created controls. You can't not go on a social media site now and see a plethora of controls in order to show how you can manage your profile, how you can see it from other people's perspectives, depending on who they are. The experience is intuitive. They even pops up and warns you when you're doing things. That was 2 or 3 years ago. Where is that on the political agenda now? This specific issue, there are many others around privacy, but this one dropped down. There's also issues around content, extremist content. Facebook now have 20,000 staff globally screening content. They don't have a regulator yet. They did that themselves. Fake news. They're being attacked for this now as well. They're being attacked on every direction, I have to admit. Some things they're responding to better than others. But straight away, the moment it comes up, yes, we admit, yes, it's an existential threat. We need to do something about it. And they invest in doing something. Now, let's analyze how we have responded to an issue. And just to be crystal clear here, I'm not here to criticize anyone. I'm here to provoke introspection on the way we have dealt with issues. Fixed odds betting machines, public perception, the crack cocaine of gambling. Oof, that's quite hard. Yeah, destroying the high street, not Amazon, no. Gambling companies, destroying the high street. Yeah, exploiting the vulnerable. So how did we respond? We fought back. No, going to lose jobs. 16,000 jobs, have you thought about it? Look at the tax revenue. And what was the outcome? Well, it's been covered already today. Theresa May personally stepped in. She saw the gambling industry teed up for a publicity stunt. She stepped in herself and pushed over the last hurdle in the process. Philip Hammond, his 400 million black hole in his accounts. Philip, why don't you increase the remote tax to offset the loss? Oh, great idea. No, you did that. I'm going to quote someone. We now believe the issue has become so toxic that only a substantial reduction in stake limits to £10 or less will address societal concerns. Who was that? It was Breon Cochrane, CEO of Betfair at the time. He was hounded for saying this. Hounded. He didn't stand anything to lose compared to the other operators. What a joke. Irrelevant. Is he right? Yes, he's right. Now, some existential questions. What would have happened if we, as an industry, had got together and acknowledged there was a public and societal problem? And we got together and we decided, you know what, we'll limit fixed odds betting machines to £10 a stake as an industry, proactively, into the newspaper. Oh, gambling industry accepts there's a problem. Okay, limit it. So there could be some positive reinforcement of our reputation. What would the industry lobby? I remember the parliamentary group. They came out with 3 recommended stakes: 50, 20, or 2. Where did that one go? 50, 20, 2. I remember it, and I remember reading it in the headline going, seems like we're onto a loser here. But if we'd limited the stake to £10 ourselves, proactively, what options would we have then? 20, 10, 5, or 2 as well? Maybe. But then when I asked, where would it be on the public agenda? Where would it be on the priorities of Parliament? Would it be right up there with all the other problems that they've got to deal with? Or would we be waiting for the results of research to see the impact of a stake restriction? Well, either way, it is what it is. It's done. Why did I bring this up? November the 18th. Daniel, I'm reading from the bottom. Daniel, 35, killed himself after online gambling took his addiction to a whole new level. That's 100 times higher stake than the fixed odds betting machines. How are we going to respond as a sector with our existential crisis? So, how are we dealing with our threats at the moment today? We have 2 problems. They're 2 of the 3 raison d'etres of the UK Gambling Commission's existence, okay? First one is around fair play. I ignored it today, okay? The other, keep crime out of gambling, which we hear is a recurrent theme, AML, etc., and protect the vulnerable from harm, underage and also addicts. Yeah, protect the vulnerable from harm. Let's appraise our current approaches today. Here are the solutions we have today. I'm sure you're all familiar. Source of wealth checks and understand affordability. The new buzzword today, affordability. So I'll give you a little bit of my background. So I spent the last 15 years working on operator side, and most of the time I spend my time trying to turn compliance challenges and risk challenges into operational and technical black and white. Yeah. I want to discuss these concepts today. Source of wealth checks. Okay, we need to understand someone's source of wealth. Make sure they're not bringing proceeds of crime and playing with them. Okay. Problem. If we miss one, we've got massive enforcement, a huge issue, negative publicity. So what do? Airport security. Yes, screen lots and lots of people. Don't let the one go through. Don't let the guy with the bomb through. Absolutely, yes. And what's it doing? The false positives are absolutely huge. It's impacting all of you know about this problem. It's impacting how many people are proceeding with the checks. They're dropping off. Okay, it doesn't matter because we're going to stop the problem, aren't we? That's fine. Oh, wait. What about the true positive? Well, in airport security, if I walk through with a bomb, what happens? I get nicked. But in this situation, what happens with the true positive? The one committing a crime to fund the habit. What happens to him? Please give me your source of wealth. The addict who's got a problem and is funding their habit with a crime, he's going to do two things. One, mislead you. He's defrauding someone else already. He'll do it for you too. Or two, go elsewhere. Cross-operator cases are already happening today. White papers are pointing out the weakness. Are we keeping crime out of gambling? No. Are we diluting it? Yes. Will it have some effect? Maybe. Look at the operational cost. Look at the effectiveness. This is a problem. Second solution, affordability. This one, I have to admit, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really, really struggling with it, okay? I'm really struggling with it. In order to understand affordability, you need to understand the full picture of someone's financial and personal circumstances, okay? So first of all, when we ask for this information, what happens? Okay, the guy might go to someone else and just go, I don't want to do the affordability check with you. How many people want to disclose all their financial circumstances to a gambling operator? Okay, not many. So we've got the problem again. And let's say, okay, I'm a big VIP. I'm going to give you access to all my things. Here you go. I'm Lord so-and-so somewhere. I don't have an income, but I've got £1 million in savings. How much can he afford? Goes down to the bottom into your operational divisions. Choose how much he can afford. 10%? 20%? If I choose 50, what will the commission think? Yeah, it's very, very intangible. Okay? And so I started to ask myself, where did this concept of affordability come from? You know, it doesn't work quite like that. You know, personal circumstances change, etc. And it came to me, this is a true story. It happened to me in the bank 1 month ago. I went in and I applied for a mortgage. Please give me 12-month statements of all your life, credit cards, the lot, please. Wow, that's a lot. Do you really need everything? I've been banking with you for 20 years. Yes, I'm afraid. We need to check your, affordability for a regular payment financial services product. Okay. What about gambling? Is it a regular payment financial? No. When I want to go and play gambling, I want to go. I don't think about budgeting. I go on that day. Probably I spend too much. I don't go again for a while, but I enjoyed that experience. Does affordability fit? Even better. Let's say I went through an affordability check. Yes, Jeremy, I've got 50,000 in savings, which deposit for my house. Yeah. And I've got a nice regular income. Fantastic. Great. You can carry on. You can afford to lose $5,000 a month. I don't know, I'm saying. Yeah. Now, the bank approved loan and will be keeping that 50,000 to make sure you can always afford Mr. Harding Roberts. And my personal circumstances changed in a split second. So what are we supposed to do with affordability? We're supposed to keep checking? No, a bank can do that. They have access to all your records. Yeah? A gambling company, no. It doesn't fit. It's intangible. It's highly changeable. How are we going to make this make sense? Operationally, technically. Yeah? Question. If I can afford to gamble, does it mean I can't have a problem? What happens if I have a problem? Well, for me, this is the difficulty of these concepts, and it's why I need to challenge them. Other issues that we're dealing with. CEOs aim to be the best at what they do in their sphere. They get up every morning. Their job is to make their companies the best at what they do. In this game, well, there's a problem. If he's the best at what he does, he gives all his business to his competitor. The white knight in this fairy tale dies. There's no happy ending. The approach today to the issue promotes a race to mediocrity. Yes, we are all doing our best, but in reality, the one that makes the most is the most mediocre. The current situation of the UK market, it reminds me of cats and dogs. And the analogy of the operators are the cats. They don't particularly like each other. They spend their time looking at each other suspiciously, posturing, moving, not knowing quite what to do. Now let's throw into this room full of cats a dog that's going to start barking, okay? Innovate, affordability, do it, get on with it. Okay, I understand why they're barking, don't get me wrong. There's a big problem, which we've just pointed out. However, now what's happening in the room? The cats are just going ballistic. Some are carrying the corner, one's gone up the tree, 3 have gone out the room. Not happy yet, £7 million glass of water, that cat. The solution, well, for me, the current situation is a bit of a comedy. What we really need is a room, in a way, kind of full of aligned cats, and one where the dog not only helps to align them, but protects them. There needs to be alignment in what we're doing. What are the real problems that we have to solve? Truly, right down at the root, what are the real problems that we have to solve? Yes, it's problematic behavior, right at the root. It's addiction, yes? This is the issue. Loss of control, loss of rationality. That moment that the red mist falls and that person is no longer making rational decisions, they hurt themselves. Yes, this is the root issue. It's also about behavior interoperator. Unless we can see the full picture of a person, yes, a cross-operator, we're wasting our time. It's also about sector alignment on process and policy. Now, there have been great efforts in this respect. GAMLAG, many others, people coming together, sharing ideas, trying to get alignment on policy, agreeing thresholds, etc. Okay. But then how are we going to implement it? How do we know that that operator's doing it the same way which I'm doing it, with the same effectiveness? We need synchronized application, yeah? This is difficult. This is the next hurdle. Okay, we decide how to do it, but now do we synchronize? Yeah, we're coming up with these brush thresholds, which are increasingly hard to pick. Has anyone asked the role of technology in this situation? Well, problematic behavior can be modeled. Data science, many of you invest in it. Consortium, data consortium, well, that combines data. It gives holistic pictures of information. Thresholds can be defined as a group. We've talked about technology, by its design, automates and synchronizes application. Computer says no. It loves telling you no. You can't do that. Sharing data. I don't want to give away my VIPs. I don't trust my competitors in a data consortium. Well, for me, this is an issue of ownership. Operators are obviously stakeholders. Regulator must be involved. The dog must guard the door. It must be impartial. It must serve the stakeholders. And assurance and trust is paramount for the stakeholders. This last hurdle, assurance and trust. coming to the KPMG eSummit, I couldn't think of a company that was involved in assurance and trust. Try and get there. Maybe you can help me afterwards. Technology, it all exists today. Not only exists today, it's in use today. Consortium models are used every industry to align and support competitors in overcoming problems where they need to cooperate, okay? It all exists today. Obviously, the issue needs support on technology. Which one should we choose? Tendering processes, etc. Legal conflicts need to be clarified. Sensitive data sharing, is it a problem? Well, we definitely have legitimate interest. How about vital interest? We're saving lives, are we not? Question for lawyers. I'm not a lawyer. Okay. Obviously, I've covered the fact that the door needs to be guarded. But in terms of you out there, ask challenging questions, please. Okay? Is the solutions that we propose, are they really going to work or not? Put forward bold proposals. Keep doors and minds open to ideas, especially in relation to technology. The opportunity, well, we can break the chain. Actually address the root problem. We can keep crime out of gambling. Everybody all at once. Imagine, I need to do a source of wealth check. He does, everyone else does the same thing. We all need source of wealth at this point, please. Otherwise, you can't proceed. Reduce harm. Intervene earlier. Use data science modeling. Gain trust. Show we're listening and responding. Acknowledge there is a problem. We need to get out into the public domain. And hopefully we can demonstrate success. We can become sustainable if we address this issue. Managers work in the system. Leaders work on it. Thank you very much.